Hello, Koji here. This month we're going to have a bit of a more casual review of the book that we read because I'm at my mother-in-law's house and I just dropped my kids off. They're going to be staying here for 2 weeks. We're going to be renovating our new house. So I am a bit scattered, a bit exhausted, and yeah. So this is just going to be a casual little chat. It'll be a little bit shorter than usual. But that doesn't mean I liked the book any less than usual. This was a great book. So last month we read My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Brathwaite. And she is a British Nigerian poet. And this, I believe, was her debut novel. She also writes short stories. So I love people who write short stories. I love the crossover between short story and novel. I love the crossover between poet and novelist. So for me, it was really, really interesting to not only read the book, but learn a little bit more about her as a writer and her journey. I believe the book was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. I'm not sure if it was shortlisted or if it won. I don't follow a lot of the prizes. Maybe I should, but I don't. Okay, moving on to a little bit about the book. So the book is about two sisters. Their names are Korede and Isla, and obviously one of them is a serial killer. Isla is the younger sister. She is a very, very beautiful woman. People fall in love with her. She's charming, she's charismatic, and she also happens to have killed 3 men. And the book opens with her killing the third man, and her older sister Korede comes to help her dispose of the body and protect her sister from getting in trouble. And Isla claims that it's not her fault that she keeps killing men, that these men are abusive towards her, and she's just protecting herself. And Isla's kind of an unreliable character, so we don't know how much of that is true, how much of that is in her head, she believes it to be true, and how much of it is just made up. So this book, it is a very, very fast read. It's a short book in general, but the chapters are little bite-sized pieces, like just a couple pages long, and I this was the first book in a long time that I put the book down in order to go to sleep. And 10 minutes later, I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I had to keep reading. And I had to just keep going and figure out what happened. And it's such a fast-paced book that I was surprised when I looked back and realized the main character, Korede, she's not a very active protagonist. Most of the book is her kind of watching what's happening and figuring out what's happening and trying to make a decision on when she will act and what she will do. And the whole book is just this debate of whether she's going to protect her sister and continue to protect her sister, or whether she is going to give her sister up. And the book kind of revolves around Korede's breaking point, because Isla starts dating the man that Korede has a crush on, and the question is, will Korede continue to protect and support her sister, or will she protect and support the man that she loves? So one thing that I really like about the book is that it explores a lot of questions, but it doesn't really answer them. It's a story about two sisters. It's a story about family relationships. It's a story about family responsibility. It's about abuse. It's about who's a victim and who is a perpetrator of abuse. It asks a lot of tough questions, but in not trying to answer them, it remains a fun read, a slightly absurd read, and not as heavy as one would assume when they're reading about a serial killer. As I said, it has these very short chapters, and the narrative isn't always related from chapter to chapter. Like, it doesn't necessarily go in sequence, and it kind of jumps around in time. And these short little bite-sized chapters are just like, you can tell that Oyenkan was a poet before a writer. Like, her writing is just very, very poetic, it focuses in on these small details. And that's something that I love. That's how the book, which is, I believe it's positioned as a thriller, to me, it's a surreal novel. Even though it is set in the real world, everything that happens could potentially happen. To me, the way it focuses in on these very small details takes it to surrealism and even absurdism. The characters kind of become like caricatures of themselves. The very beautiful young girl, young woman is extremely beautiful. She is extremely tiny, and like reading about her, I feel like you could scoop her up into a teacup. Like she's just an adorable little character, and this leads to this level of absurdism that she is a murderer of these men that are twice her size and could easily overpower her. So there's a little bit of surrealism, a little bit of absurdism. Korede, the main character, she's also a caricature, just because she's one thing. She is set on protecting her sister, on being clean and tidy and neat and having everything in order, and she never strays from that. And these characters of characters, it leads to this feeling of fun, and almost like you're in a fun house. Like things are just a little off, a little distorted, and people are reacting how they wouldn't normally react in real life because they follow this script for themselves, which I found just fascinating. So, as I said, the main theme in the book is sisterhood, because it's about these two sisterhoods, these two sisters. It's about family, the responsibilities that we take on in a family, how we protect our family. Yeah, and so a lot of the book is how hard it is to fulfill our roles, and how difficult it is to be part of a family, how we're asked to do things that we might not want to do, and also how good it can be. Like through it all, Korede is upset with and frustrated with Isla, but in the end, Isla is her sister. She gets a lot of benefits from Isla, even as the book doesn't necessarily showcase them, but you can see that Korede gets some kind of emotional benefit of having Isla around, having someone who shared the same abuse that she experienced as a child, and the same childhood. Having that person around really helps Korede. And so it showcases not only the bad things of sisterhood, but also the good things. In a very, very weird lens, it kind of showcases them. And this kind of leads into the next thing. It's revealed throughout the book that the two girls were abused by their father as children. It doesn't go deep into the abuse, it's not graphic or anything like that, but it shows that he was a very strong and demanding man, and all three women, the two girls and their mother, were abused by him. Now, even after his death, they're required to hold up in society that he was this great grand man and that he was a good father. They continue to celebrate his life. And I just imagine how hard that must be for three victims of abuse to have to hold this screen up to the world. But at the same time, it's a question of generational abuse, because we see how Isla, a victim of trauma, ends up growing up to perpetuate trauma on other people. She ends up becoming a serial killer. And the question of how much do we protect these people that are doing bad things to people now because they had bad things done to them before. And when is that flipping moment of when someone is a victim versus when they become the perpetuator of violence? And the answer seems really easy. It's as soon as they are violent towards anyone else. As soon as they perpetuate violence, then they're the abuser. They're not the one who was abused. But they are still the person who was abused. And so this dual vision of Isla as the serial killer, but also this fragile person who is recovering from very strong abuse that she's experienced throughout her entire life, it poses a lot of questions. And again, she doesn't answer these questions, it just poses these questions. And I think it really works that these characters are women, because we look at men's background, like serial killers who are men, and we look at their background and we say, oh yeah, they were abused as a child, and then they turned into this horrible person. And we don't really look at the two layers there of the person who is this terrible person right now and the abuse that they experienced as a child. So I think this book does a really good job of kind of overlapping those two in a very delicate way to make us ask these questions of how can we stop generational abuse? How can we stop this trauma that we keep perpetuating throughout multiple lifetimes? And it was super fascinating for me, because this is a little bit of a scattered review and not as in-depth as I usually go. I'm going to put a link down below to an interview with Oyinkan Brathwaite that I really enjoyed. It's like a 50-minute long interview, and she goes into her inspiration, some of her ideas, some of her process of writing the book, and it's really fascinating. I recommend watching it. I recommend reading the book. And yeah, I'll see you next month. Oh yeah, P.S. My book of poetry, Scars That Never Bled, is going to be out on August 9th. It will be available paperback through Amazon and ebook through Amazon and on my website. And I will post links as soon as it's available. Thanks. Bye.